Jewish Channel's Week in Review. Imposters posing as victims of the Holocaust, charged with millions of dollars in fraud. The Chilean miners are heading to Israel. A play explores what happens when unaffiliated Jews start dating ones with yarmulkes. And more of the Jewish news that's changing your world right now on this episode of the Week in Review. Hello, and welcome to the Jewish Channel's Week in Review. I'm Stephen I. Weiss. Saber-rattling over Iran reached a new level for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu this week when he told an audience of Jewish leaders that Iran must face a, quote, credible military threat because he feels sanctions haven't worked to keep Iran from further development of its nuclear program. Netanyahu's statement to Jewish leaders at the Federation System's annual summit this year came soon after Defense Secretary Robert Gates said that the U.S. plans to stay the current course of using diplomatic and economic measures to deter Iran, saying, "We are prepared to do what is necessary, but at this point we continue to believe that the political economic approach that we are taking is in fact having an impact in Iran." Netanyahu's speech was interrupted multiple times by protesters from the group Jewish Voice for Peace, who spoke against the recently proposed loyalty oath bill for new Israeli citizens that received Netanyahu's cabinet's approval and is being considered by the Knesset. Meanwhile, Netanyahu is facing criticism from the United Nations, the White House, and others for Israel's recently announced plans to build hundreds of housing units in East Jerusalem. The plans for the new construction were revealed Monday, but the decision by a Jerusalem committee to allow the new construction took place several months ago. In a story of alleged international fraud to raid the coffers of Holocaust reparations, the federal government filed charges Tuesday alleging that more than $40 million had been claimed by imposters using false documents to assert they were victims of the Holocaust. The charges are being pressed against 17 individuals and come after the claims conference notified the individuals in July that they had 90 days to return the money. In another example of immoral behavior, an Israeli member of Knesset is being forced to vacate his office over issues of moral turpitude. The claims against the Kadima party's Tzachi Hanegbi arose from a recent conviction for perjury. Hanegbi has served in the Knesset for 22 years and was chairman of the Security and Foreign Affairs Committee. His departure could have far-reaching implications for coalition building in the Israeli government. In a story that will bring Israel positive attention, the Chilean miners rescued recently after months trapped in a mine have accepted an invitation to visit Israel with all expenses paid by the Israeli government. However, the 33 miners have said they only want to go if they can bring family with them, and Israel hasn't yet committed to covering expenses for the additional 70 potential travelers. While Israel tries hard there to make a match, there's another area of Jewish life where traditional matchmaking runs into difficulties. What happens when non-observant and yarmulke-wearing Jews get together? Rebecca Honig-Friedman finds out.
Can I really date a guy who wears a yarmulke? That's the title and the question at the center of a new play on stage at the Knitting Factory in Brooklyn, New York this month.
It's about a culturally Jewish girl who falls for an observant guy. So it's like every romantic comedy you've ever seen, only different.
This first-time playwright, herself culturally Jewish but not ritually observant, was inspired by her own experience on a Taglit Birthright Israel trip a few years ago.
I felt compelled to sort of write about it and try to work out my feelings about Judaism through my writing.
And some of the cast members have connected with the questions the play poses about Jewish identity as well. Catherine Lefrere, who is half Jewish, plays Eleanor, the non-observant main character who struggles with dating a modern Orthodox Jewish man.
She's very opinionated and sort of can be at oftentimes, and I think this is what makes her so human, a little closed-minded, and I think that's the play is about Eleanor's growth in terms of compromise and compromising with someone that she falls in love with.
It's a struggle that Lefrere said she can relate to.
I grew up with very little religious upbringing in any way, from either side of my mother or my father. So for me, I really identify with her because I think if I were to fall in love with someone who was so extremely religious, I would think that there would be some serious differences in our beliefs and practices.
Eleanor's yarmulke-wearing boyfriend, Aaron, is a nominally modern Orthodox doctor.
He's got his ducks in a row, and it's time to find the right woman, settle down, and have some children. Raise a mishpacha.
But Aaron's not quite sure if the modern Orthodox lifestyle is what he wants. A struggle-leading man, Jason Liebman, who grew up in a traditional Jewish home but is no longer observant, identifies with.
What this play is about, the Jewish sort of identity crisis that I think, people our age seem to be having a lot. That resonated with me because having grown up in a very traditional Jewish home and, having lived down the street from a synagogue and speaking Hebrew and, being married and all of those things. To me, like, it's sort of time to decide what all of that means to you, and as you sort of make your path in life.
For more on Can I Really Date a Guy Who Wears a Yarmulke, tune in to the full broadcast version of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Rebecca. In another story of theater, one woman is exploring the ways in which Sephardic heritage has been expressed over time. Christian Neen reports.
Leila Brukim has made a name for herself in Spain's competitive flamenco dance profession. And though during a decade spent living in Spain she often performed for Catholic Iberians, she is originally from Manhattan and of Sephardic and Persian heritage. Last week, she danced 3 portions of her own upcoming show, Traces, a Sephardic Flamenco Journey, at the 92nd Street Y, a performance sponsored by the Resource Center for Jewish Diversity that included an interview with 92Y's resident flamenco instructor, Joey Di Romano, in which Brukim explained how Traces portrays her family's Sephardic and Persian roots.
The first part refers to the expulsion of the Jews during the Inquisition. The second part is the arrival of the woman to Persia. About 100 years later, my family came to Kashan in Iran. And then the third part is the woman's arrival, my arrival to Spain, back to Spain, so it's like closing the circle.
The first part featured a flamenco singer performing a lullaby in Ladino, the Jewish language that's like a Sephardic version of Yiddish. Though whereas Yiddish contains a heavy German influence, Ladino is heavily influenced by Spanish.
And so she sings this Ladino lullaby called Nani Nani, but with a flamenco twist. So we have the Spanish guitar and her flamenco voice, and so that's the first element of fusion.
The second part features a fusion of flamenco and Persian music in a 4x4 tango rhythm.
And I wasn't supposed to be dancing, but I just got inspired, and that was improvised, by the way, a little secret. Got up and gave my little, Persian shoulder thing going on.
To hear more from Brukim on the role of Jewish women in Traces, please tune into the full broadcast version of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Christian. That's all for this week. For more news and analysis from the Jewish Channel during the week, please check out our blog at newsdesk.tjctv.com. From all of us here at the Jewish Channel, be well. The Jewish Channel is available on cable: IO Optimum Cable Channel 291, Time Warner Cable Channel 528, RCN Channel 268, Verizon Fios Channel 900, and Cox Cable Channel 1. For more information, visit tjctv.com.